Downloading data.
Welcome to the Download Podcast, the audio companion to the Download video show.
Tell me what you want, when you want it.
Featuring more trends and insights for digital marketers. Presented by
Microsoft Advertising. The Download.
with your hosts, Jennifer Solomon-Baum and Jeffrey Colon.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful. I don't know what I'm doing singing that song. It's 80 degrees with sun here in Los Angeles. We are recording from a new spot in Culver City, the Microsoft Lounge. Welcome to another episode of the Download Podcast presented by Microsoft Advertising. I'm Jeffrey Colon, head of the brand studio, here with my partner in rhyme, the notorious JSB. JSB, how's your summer going?
You're such a poet, Jeff. My summer is still great. Lots of travel, and that was interesting, experiencing different countries and all the COVID protocols. I think I beat my own record of being tested before flying, after flying, before coming back to the U.S., but it's been good.
I saw all the photos. You were in like Costa Rica, Belgium, Mexico. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Becoming the world traveler again.
I know, I always was. But yes, it was really good to go back to Belgium, my home country. And, you know, they had a quarantine that was lifted for the summer. So I just took the opportunity to go say hi to my family and friends.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you used some of maybe the travel tips from our last episode.
Absolutely. How's your
do.
summer?
It's going well. I mean, I just sort of, laid back low and was my creative self in terms of trying to figure out what we want to do with this sort of new fresh season now that we are recording a podcast with every one of our video episodes of the show. So
yeah,
it's exciting stuff.
What is our new vision? Where are we going?
I mean, that road I think is going to be one that we sort of just travel and figure out as we're going along.
Yes. What did I say usually? Plan for the unplanned. Yeah.
Plan for the unplanned.
But there's one thing for sure is back to school. So I know that
That's correct.
It's taking a while and everyone is going back to school in different times in August or September. But my kids are back to school. And so with that comes a sense of relief.
Yes.
But also,
yes.
I think it's going to be an interesting step back into the life as we knew it before. In a way, it's good for the kids to be back with their friends. And yes, we have to wear masks and do the test and be vaccinated and all that. But socializing, we've been missing that. And I can see the impact on the kids as well. So
yeah. I think it'll be interesting because, I think they're going to try to keep schools open no matter where you are in the world, and work might be a little bit different. I think that may be a little delayed still, but I do think people will be back in the offices before we know it.
But with back to school comes also certain purchase that we had to do, and that was sort of our insights for the show as well. What are the retail trends? Yeah. I mean, just as an example, we had to buy backpacks. For a year and a half, we didn't use backpacks.
That's right.
Clothes, shoes. Everyone changed shoe size. So, we had to purchase those things.
And that actually is interesting, JSB, because I read a really unique article on who are the dominant players in some of these spaces we're talking about, with clothes and backpacks. Some of those companies suffered the last, year because you didn't really need to buy much of them. And now it's like they're more important again. So it's almost like one of the interesting insights is how we're on a roller coaster ride. So like what was down last year is now up this year. And what was up last year might be down this year. So for example, if you bought a chair last year for your home office, you're probably not going to be in the market to buy that again.
No. But you have to get dressed to go outside. And so you more formal clothes.
Formal clothes might be big again. I'm not ready to put those, formal pants on just yet, but
I can't deal with socks.
Yeah.
Even, so there's that.
So.
But BOPIS also.
Yes.
What is BOPIS again? Just help me. I hate
Buy
those acronyms.
online, pick up in store.
Thank you.
I think the interesting thing here for all of us, for all the listeners, is BOPIS is not, when we look at search traffic in relation to BOPIS, It's not 5, it's not 55, but it's 555% higher in 2021 than it was last year. Think about that for a second. That means people are actually looking for this option to buy online and pick up in store. That is an ingrained behavior that we now can say is stuck, meaning I don't think it's going away. There is no post-COVID or post-next normal. I think this is just the way we're going to shop and continue to buy things. If you have people searching for those options, 555% higher this year than last year.
Yeah, no, quite the statistics here. Listen, it makes everyone's life easier. You know, if I don't have to go to the supermarket 3 times a week, I'm happy. And so all the good stuff that we had to adopt as new habits of purchasing and buying stuff for the house to run your house, those are here to stay.
Yeah, I think those are here to stay. And it sort of reminds me of what we talked about in the last episode on how people want payment options.
Yep.
And that's not going away. We're not going to go back to a world where it's like, well, you can only buy using a credit card. People want the flexibility. I think this is flexibility people want moving forward.
Yep.
And I think, if you are in the service of customer experience, this is something that you should basically put on the front burner if you have not considered it.
So maybe for anyone who's listening to us who is selling anything online, buy now, pay later is really a trend that we see increasing dramatically and is going nowhere. So
that's correct. Yeah.
Yep.
I also think another trend when we think about sort of, the insights that are out there is the sustainable gift trend. What we've seen there is more people are really interested in sustainable gifts moving forward. I don't know if that's going to go away either. That's increased, 37% year over year. So for those listening right now and marketers and advertisers getting ready for the holiday season, how are you prepared in this area? I mean, if you're in a product area, and we just talked to our friends at Who Gives a Crap about that, so make sure you watch the video portion of this on episode 9. They talked about sustainability and how important that is for their own product, which happens to be toilet paper.
Yep. I mean, who knew toilet paper could be this interesting, but such an amazing direct-to-consumer company that really is driving their business with purpose. So check that interview and that profile for sure. Something else that a lot of retailers are worried about right now is shipping charges.
Yeah.
And that will have a direct impact on consumer. And at times we might see some prices increasing. Not good for consumers.
Nope.
But for brands, when at times for some product areas or product categories rather, where margins are really, really tiny, they might have no other choice but to raise prices. So for marketers, think about maybe long tail keywords, promote your local inventory as well.
Yes.
So that will help with shipping charges. And consumer will continue to shop early. So make sure that you advertise right now and get ready for the holiday season, because it's never too early to start about those that season. It's coming right around the corner.
Not at all. And of course, we have tons of insights. You can read more about them at microsoftadvertising.com/insights. And of course, you don't just want to hear from us. You want to hear from, the other big players in the industry. And we have a good one lined up as our special guest for this episode. New Engen is a modern digital marketing agency that is in the business of finding breakthroughs. And they have some amazing breakthroughs to talk to us about in regard to audience marketing.
You're listening to the Download Podcast, presented by Microsoft Advertising, with JSB and Geoff. And now, time for this month's big interview.
You think you're big time?
All right, let's welcome to the show our special guests for this episode, Erin Morningstar, who is Director of Client Strategy, and Nora Bafus, Creative Director, both from New Engen. Welcome to the Download.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
All right. So give our audience, since we're speaking about audience, pun intended, a little insight about what you're seeing out there when it comes to audience marketing.
Well, I can say for sure it's top of mind for everyone right now. I think the challenge that we're facing is how do we continue to reach the right people without having access to all of the third party or transient data that we used to have access to.
Yeah.
In a way, marketers could be pretty sly, like, I know this about you, I have this wealth of data on you in addition to my first party. And so you could kind of follow people around the internet. I think that's kind of going away. I think we are going to be challenged to engage with users in a way that's more conversational, that's more one-to-one. And we're going to be forced as marketers to provide value.
Yeah.
So what I see brands doing is actually kind of going back to the basics of marketing, which is, who is my audience? How do I understand them in a really deep way? What problems are they facing? And then how do I provide value in such a way that they want to come back and keep engaging with me and want to have that interaction with my message?
You know, it's interesting, Erin. I think this is the 8th time this week, and JSB, back me up here, that someone said we need to go back to basics. I feel like that's the theme for 2021, Erin. So, you know, I keep hearing that from a lot of marketers. What do you think?
So how do we go back to the basics?
Yeah, how do we go back to the basics?
And what's top of mind for brands? How do we go on to this renewed journey? Because we've been there before. So how do we tackle this again in 2021?
Yeah, and Nora, I'd love to hear what your take on this is, because you are a creative director, and I feel like creativity is going to be a big part of this moving forward.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of it. I mean, we joke internally, like, are we going back to the Mad Men era where we have to like sell a story on the back of a cereal box or something? But it's not that dire. When we say back to the basics, what we're meaning is that marketers can no longer sit shotgun and just let the algorithm take over and reach who they need to. We need to take more ownership as marketers and creatives to own the content and the value you bring to your audience and really take a heavier hand in the relevancy that you're providing. So it's to understand your customers in a really meaningful way and provide value to compete for their attention. And it doesn't need to be monumental. It can be like, did you make me laugh? Did you provide me content that was interesting? Did you teach me something? Or can you relate to me because your models look just like me? All those things are important in your content story and in your brand, especially today. You just need to fight for my attention, speak to me in a way that I understand, and really understand who I am top to bottom versus like a couple different data points that might tell you I like yoga pants, but by no means am I an athlete. I'm a mom who needs them for my grocery store run or something like that. We're complex people. We have a lot of interesting details about us. And so we're saying, you know, creatives and marketers need to understand the full picture and the story a little bit deeper than just relying on the machines to calibrate for you.
This is interesting. Instead of relying on the machines, getting back to basics, really understanding who people are again, sort of a lot of those behavioral tactics. We're talking to Erin and Nora, who are calling in from Seattle, from New Engen. Question on this, because, you know, there's always questions on data, and we're starting to hear a lot around, you know, does third party, second party, even first party data go away? And is that all replaced by zero party data? And to make our audience understand this, and so you can answer the question better, JSB, what is zero party data?
Yes. So first of all, it's a really cool name, but it's more than a buzzword, evidently. And so eConsultancy had a really interesting paper, and I'm going to read their definition, right? So we're level set for everyone. The term zero-party data was first coined by Forrester to describe any data that a customer proactively and deliberately shares. So it's different than first-party data, as it provides organization with explicit consumer preferences rather than implied preferences that are usually generated from a brand's interaction with a consumer. So first party was looking at in the past, your past behavior to predict the future, as opposed to zero party data is really like what I'm willing to give you voluntarily. And so, you know, you can continue to be very specific and targeted with, you know, interactions and messages.
So that leads me to this question, Erin. If zero party data becomes sort of the focal point, what do websites look like? Because that really makes that makes them more of an indicator where people are going to want to maybe enter their information so they can buy things. Do you think this is going to lead to like new e-commerce models? What are some things that you think could be on the horizon?
Yes, I think zero-party data is going to become a really important component of how we understand our audiences. I don't think it's going to replace first-party data. Nora and I talk about it like they're two parts of the same cocktail. You have to have both to understand the full picture. And what I like about zero-party data, first-party data is exactly what you said. It's what do we know about the consumer's behavior in the past and what can we observe about them? Whereas zero-party data is how the user sees themselves and how they describe themselves to the brand and how they communicate their preferences. And so it's that qualitative, nuanced piece that Nora was just speaking to around you have to have an in-depth knowledge of your consumers, what their mindsets, what their motivations are. And as that relates to e-com, I think that means more textured, deep experiences on websites, which means providing value more than that's just a product or some kind of transaction. It's an interaction and a conversation that's happening in a way that's very explicit, but also mutually beneficial to both parties.
Interesting. Nora, on the creative side, what do you think this opens up? Erin mentioned that you need, brands are going to have to actually provide some more value. Do you think like education becomes a bigger focal point, entertainment? What are some things that you're seeing out there? We love to, I'm just, curious as this sort of pivot takes place, what you could see sort of at the forefront of audience marketing on the creative side.
Yeah. So I love the idea of zero-party data kind of scaling and growing within the marketing space, because when you're self-submitting, you get access to, lifestyle changes, aspirational goals. We're all complex beings, so we get to understand that story from your lens, and who knows you better than you. So that's a really powerful tool. I say you need to make the cover charge worth it. You need to make the entry point something that's worth my while. So, you want to incentivize your people to come in, engage with the website. So even when you're saying, give me your email, like, what are you going to do for me? It's a chance to speak to me in a way that makes me laugh, where you understand me. You're going to give me an offer code that also is a, private joke or something that helps me, trust you and understand that you know what I'm all about, and you're speaking to me in a way that I understand. A really fun trend I'm seeing is within the quizzes, or like online quizzes, is something I'm seeing people like really take ownership of and using it as a place to brand and also tease out other data in a really organic way that doesn't feel heavy-handed. A really great example of this you'll see in the perfume industry. So examples like Skylar and Sniff and Fleur, these D2C perfume brands, like how are they going to convince you to buy perfume online? This is really difficult and a very sketchy endeavor, right? There's a lot of risk involved, but they give me a really nice scent quiz. So they'll ask you typical questions, like, do you prefer fruity smells versus smoky? Or do you like, a salty lemon, or, a punchy floral, things like that you think are typical and very skewed towards perfume. But then they'll bake in some questions that say, like, is this for office or the playground? Or do you prefer sunrises versus sunsets? That's all part of this, sneaky data collection and this customer experience that like they're engaging with me, but they're trying to unpack other little things about my lifestyle in a way that's framed with like scent and perfume shopping. So I'm deep in the quiz. I'm going to keep taking it. And, if you guys are curious, I'm a sunset person, but all these things tell you like a lot of clues about my lifestyle. It's all passed in a very organic way over to the brands to take what they need from that and use it for email or their other marketing efforts. It's all encompassed in the way that's helpful to me as the consumer, because you're just trying to find a scent that matches my personality.
I love what you said about texture. I mean, all those questions definitely provide depth of, texture to personality. So question for you. So how do you take a client into this journey? Let's say that, give us an example of, you have a client that has a lot of data, but maybe doesn't have necessarily a lot of zero first party data. How do you help them transition into this new world?
I think it starts with a testing framework. So regardless of how much data our clients have when they come to us, it's our mission to get them insights as quickly as possible. And what that usually looks like is starting with what they know about their core consumer. If they have any customers, they have some sense of like what their core motivations or what their hero products are, what messages have worked in the past. And we start there, and then we make small pivots or iterations of that to continue down this thread of what's resonating with consumers. And oftentimes what we find is that we're surprised. When you're doing it in a paid environment, you can get insights pretty quickly and understand what performs well with different audience cohorts. As marketers, we're always happy to be surprised along with our clients. But what we're looking to do every step of the way is say, this was the top performer, this is the king of the hill. What can we do to make this better and understand how the messaging needs to shift from audience to audience and then channel to channel?
We're speaking with Erin Morningstar, Director of Client Strategy, and Nora Bafus, Creative Director from New Engen in Seattle. Final question for you, or one more question if we put the futurist cap on. A year from now, what's the landscape look like? What are we doing more of? What are we doing less of? Let's start with Erin.
Something that we're all talking about as marketers is contextual targeting. I think a lot of us as marketers are flocking to the walled gardens. They have audience insights that are native to that platform, and you can reach consumers and get direct responses from them within that platform. Contextual is how you scale, and it's how you use the insights from your Facebook campaigns or your Snapchat campaigns to inform where those users are across the internet. And that's how you broaden your scope of who you're reaching, and then actually test into new messaging or new audiences within that, because that's where you're getting that scale. So I think contextual is something we're going to see more of. And then I'm going to, of course, say we will all be scrambling to collect more first-party data in a way that's meaningful and a little bit more explicit with consumers. I think consumers are going to be taking a little bit more ownership of what they provide to brands. But with that, we're all going to get more creative about how we interact with consumers.
Yeah, good transition to Nora. What do you see in terms of more creative, like a year from now, if you had to put your futurist cap on?
All right, I'm going to look in my crystal ball and I'm going to say we're going to see a scale up in the UGC and how-to and demo space. I think depending on how old you are, we remember the era of the supermodel. I think that has long died, and there's a lot more a conversation around the influencer or the micro influencer and the whole marketplace there. There's agencies that just specialize in that, and they say, like, I just want a before and after or a 5-minute face demo from a working mom in Minnesota, because that's who my audience is, and they want to look and speak to people that they can relate to. So it's more, I think that marketplace is going to explode. I think we're going to find more efficient ways to utilize those content creators. I think the platforms themselves are investing in the content creators because now they're fighting for eyeballs.
Yep.
So they're saying, like, they're all fighting for the top talent. So if you have the biggest numbers on Instagram, TikTok, et cetera, Facebook and TikTok are going to fight to pay you to stay there because they know you're bringing in the eyeballs. The landscape always changes. Privacy settings and other things we're victims to just as the channels change, and we're just going along for the ride. But I think you can always own your storytelling and your content. So it's just about finding new pockets and new trends to lean into. And I think the influencer and UGC space is only going to adapt and shift and kind of expand.
Love it.
Amazing.
Nora, Erin from New Engen in Seattle, thanks for joining us here on an episode of The Download.
Thank you.
And now, The Download presents Trends with Benefits. Woohoo! New developments in marketing we are infatuated with.
All right, and we're back with our special feature that we love to do, Trends with Benefits. These are 2 or 3 trends to pay attention to and what it means for our audience. My first one, Trends with Benefits, the Ehrenberg Bass Institute study on the negative effects of cutting advertising spend. Now,
unpack this for me, please.
This is always interesting. We think about downturns in business. What's the number one thing that a business cuts, JSB?
Marketing dollars.
Marketing and advertising. Yes. So in this study, and this actually was distributed by our friends over at the LinkedIn B2B Institute, they discovered when you cut advertising spend, you actually hurt your prospects 3 to 5 years later. So when we think about sustained growth, when you say, hey, let's cut marketing, you actually have to then do double or possibly triple to recover. So what I think is interesting is we're seeing a lot of increase in advertising spend now because The economy is different than it was last year. Yes, we're in a pandemic, but people are moving and buying and doing things. I think what could be interesting is if advertisers cut again, they actually are going to have to figure out how to spend more money down the line based on what we have from this Ehrenberg Bass Institute study. So I think it should get chief marketing officers and media buyers to rethink that cut and spend moving forward if they want to keep their brand going.
Always a good conversation with the CFO, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we tend to always think of short term, right? And we forget the long term, but that's an interesting stat to think about how much it actually costs to recover after you've stopped spending. Interesting. I like that.
How about your trend with a benefit?
Okay, mine is around this notion of how can tech continues to make our life easier. And we were discussing this the other day, right? With the amount of streaming services and apps and all those passwords that we have to remember, at times I feel that tech is making my life more complicated.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
I actually am going to advocate for a couple of products from Microsoft because I get to use them on a day-to-day basis. We basically live in Outlook and in Teams all day long. And so in that notion of making my life easier, the other day I had to go somewhere, and we don't do that much anymore, right? We're not going to places that much because we're still working from home. But what was wonderful was in my Outlook calendar, it told me exactly what time I had to leave my house to be on time where I needed to be.
Yep.
So that was a shortcut into me looking at my calendar, what time is my meeting invitation, and then going to maps on my phone or on my computer and figure out how long it's going to take me to get there. It did it for me. Yep. That's when tech is actually a benefit for my mental wellness of making it easier for me.
Yes.
So I love that. If it's not in my Outlook calendar, it doesn't exist. Really, that's where my work and life exist. All my meetings with, my kids and the dentist and my work meetings, everything is in there. So if it's not in there, it doesn't exist, right? The second thing was something that I have struggled with, and we've seen this in the data as well, that that transition time between work and then at the end of the day and then back to your life again. I actually tried the other day in Teams. We have this partnership with Headspace. And so by the click of a button, you can have access to a 10 minutes meditation to unwind from your day, from your work day. And yes, exactly. Take a breather and then you can go back to your family and your life. So I love those two things. I got to try them and they make my life easier. So tech and mental wellness, making your life easier.
I love it. Now, the third one is just an area that we want to make sure we keep on our radar, and that is, the announcement that NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, which is usually really in the art world, may be sold through our partners over at Shopify. And what this means is, if we think of this space now, JSB, you have to go to an open exchange to sell NFTs. That would be a site like OpenSea or Known Origin. This actually removes those exchanges and allows you to go direct through your store site to sell NFTs. To me, this is exciting because it took a decade to go direct. When we think about how websites operated, you couldn't sell direct for many years. You had to go through a retailer. Now we all go direct. This is basically saying, hey, NFTs, which have only been around for about 5 years, well, we're going to be able to go direct as well. Putting a huge emphasis on search for around NFTs because those have really lived within these exchanges. Now they're really going to live within the open web. And I think search is going to play a big role here, especially on the visual search side of things.
I like that. Hey, Geoff, can we do an NFT for the download?
I would like to do an NFT. I think it would be pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed our Trends with Benefits this episode. What's on the video show that we just want to highlight real quick?
Yep. Insights all about the upcoming holidays. An interesting profile, as you mentioned, of this company, direct-to-consumer company that does toilet paper with a purpose called
Who Gives a Crap?
We have also a new segment called The Bot.
Yes.
All about search engine optimization this time.
Yeah. Oh, product pop-up.
Of course.
Yeah, around audience marketing.
Yes.
Yeah.
All you need to know about audiences.
So good stuff there. Episode 9 of the video show. It's out now. You're listening to episode 9 of the audio show. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review the show. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And of course, you can find the video show on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Microsoft Advertising. For another episode of the Download Podcast, I'm Jeffrey Colon.
Jennifer Solomon-Baum.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Download Podcast with Jennifer Solomon-Baum and Jeffrey Colon. All thoughts are their own. To watch the Download video show, visit MicrosoftAdvertising.com/thedownload.